Hello and welcome to a My Autistic Marriage video, married to an autistic person video, neurotypical wife with a neurodiverse husband, whichever way you want to spin it. Welcome. Logic versus intelligence. We often hear that autistic people are more logical than neurotypicals, or they're just maybe logical in general, maybe not necessarily more than neurotypicals, but logic is the thing that they have as opposed to, emotional intelligence. So sometimes they'll have high IQs. In my husband's case, he's really quite clever. He's very good with numbers. He's very organised. He's good with facts and figures. He's very good with just finances. He pays the bills. He does the superannuation. He's just really good in those kinds of areas. Now, that's not to say that I'm not. I can do all those things myself as well. It's just one of those situations where I've handballed it to him because if I do it, there'll be drama. And I don't want the drama, so have at it. So I guess I'm saying he has his skills, but it's not necessarily that his skills are like way greater than mine in that sense. So intelligence, I think that we're both intelligent people. We both have decent IQs. We did do IQ tests years ago and mine was higher than his. And it was funny because he kept saying to me, "You're just guessing and you're still getting them right." Well, they're educated guesses. That's the point of the IQ test, is how much do you think you know? It turns out I know a bit. Anyway, that was all fun and games. But logic. Let's go straight into the examples of where I think my husband has very little logic compared to me, even though neurodiverse are meant to be really super logical. I have an urn for work, and hubby grumbles and grumbles and grumbles and grumbles about this urn. You'd think it was like costing us hundreds of dollars a day, the way that he's on and on every time I turn the urn on, go to make a cuppa, get sidetracked and the urn's still warming, cooling down. There he is in the background having a little hissy fit. We had a family gathering recently and I had the urn on and people were just going up and helping themselves to hot water, making cup of teas and things. And the visitors say to me, "This urn is great. What an awesome idea." Like, I know. And I straight up tell them in front of everybody because it was one of those situations where I never win the battle about this with my husband. Doesn't matter what I say, he still grumbles. And so I wanted to raise it in front of people so that we could all have a good debate about it, right? Maybe they'd say something that, is logical and he'll get it. Anyway, so I say my husband doesn't think so. He thinks urns a terrible idea. And so the visitors are straight away, "Really? What for? What for? Why? Why would you think it's a terrible idea?" They're asking him. And he sits there and says, it costs money, she leaves it on, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so they're there on their phones and such, Googling how much does it cost to run an urn a day. And it's really small. Reminds me of the fireplace incident where he keeps turning the heater off because 2 cents a day is like, no! Like, dude, losing his mind over 2 cents a day. Anyway, so they're on my side and they're sort of saying to him, "Look, nothing wrong with the urn. It's actually cheaper than running a kettle." And I said to him, "See, look, man, I'm saving you money." What a good wife am I, I'm saving you money. Anyway, so after the visitors left, he says something about the urn again. Not critiquing necessarily, just mentioning, probably because it was mentioned. And I say to him, "You know that new truck you bought?" I don't know how much it was, but he brought a truck for work. And I don't know, let's say it was about 30 grand. I said to him, "It's probably going to take me 20 years of running this urn non-stop to even get a quarter of what you paid for that truck." And he kind of looks at me you know, and says, oh, well, yeah, well, when you put it that way, and this is what I mean by logical. To me, it's logical that if you spend whack tons of money on whatever in the hell you want, then griping over your wife having an urn, not logical. Doesn't make sense. But in that regard, let's say we use rationale. He's not rational. He's very sort of emotionally driven, fear driven. There's not a lot of rationale into the things that he says. Like that truck that he's brought is going to cost way more than that urn ever could. Even if I bought 30 urns, you know, $100 a piece or something, right? He's got the insurance of that truck, the roadworthy, the new tyres, the rego, so many things about that truck. And yeah, he says, oh, look, it's all tax deductible, but you've still got your other truck, which is not for work. So, okay, you're still paying all that money for that. So to me, his truck is going to cost way more than an urn, but he'll still grumble about an urn, you know? And even in the previous video where I talked about how good is your marriage, and he can't logically relate to the fact that I spent years pushing you away, and now that you're way over there, you annoy me. You annoy me because you're way over there and you're meant to be over here, give me all this attention, even though I told you I didn't want any, get lost, go away. Illogical again. So I think that there's maybe a difference between intelligence and logic. He's clever, you know, he can do stuff. He's really quite good with, say, I mean, he's an electrician, so, you know, he can look at power boards and know that this needs fixing and that needs replacing and blah, 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 make your electricity work. Good on him. He's great like that. And he's good with numbers, and he's, you know, good at camping and being organised with the camping and making sure there's chairs and there's all the food and the tent and the tarp and all this sort of stuff. Clever in that way. But again, it's not stuff that I couldn't do and wasn't doing before he came along. So I consider from my own perspective, and perhaps you'll disagree, and feel free to disagree. Love to hear from you what you think about this. I think that I am far more logical than he'll ever be. I also think that I'm far more rational. And of course we all have those irrational moments where, you know, you just kind of have a mental breakdown or a temper tantrum, or, you know, Shizen hits a fan and you're all sorts of, right? You know, it happens to all of us. But he is more irrational or more often than I am. And I think that I'm more logical. So feel free to give me examples. My friends give me examples all the time. This is how their partner who's autistic is more logical. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's maybe just that they're clever and they know stuff about that particular thing. That's just my 2 cents worth. Anyway, drop a comment below. What do you think? Are autistic people more logical than neurotypical people? Does intelligence and logic equal the same thing? Are they 2 separate things, which I think they are? And where does being irrational fit in? Or maybe the word's more like emotional, you know, you have emotional fits, emotional breakdown. You know, you reach your last tether and explosion, tears, anger, you name it, it's there. The other thing that I was wanting to mention is street smarts versus book smarts. My brother, who's potentially on the spectrum, is definitely book smart. He got high distinctions in science and chemistry and stuff at university. But when it comes to interacting with people and knowing what to say and what not to say and things like that, not so much. Kind of reminds me of Sheldon Cooper. So somebody was saying to me that Sheldon Cooper is really logical and also intelligent. And I said, yeah, I think he's actually just more intelligent and not logical. because he says and does things that are sort of rude and offensive, calling people silly and dumb and stupid, and got to do the light switches 50 times and the door knocking, tick, tick, ding, 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 right, 3 times. Now, obviously that's OCD, but there's a lack of logic behind OCD. And I'm not having a shot at anybody who's got OCD. I have it mildly myself. Like, I have to straighten that magazine that's sitting on the table crooked because it's just going to drive me nuts. It's not logical. The world would not fall down if I don't straighten that magazine. The world would not crumble if Sheldon Cooper doesn't knock 3 times. So I think that there's a difference between being smart and having logic, in that, as I said to my son, if you reach the age of Sheldon Cooper or my husband or other Aspies who are grown adults who are insulting people and not knowing that they shouldn't insult people because people don't like to be told that kind of stuff, then it's not very clever and it's not very logical. It's almost an immaturity. Like, you never reach past the age of 5 where saying someone was fat was okay because you're 5, and now that you're 20, you just don't. But for some reason you got to an age where you never clicked and you just keep saying it. So yeah, book smarts and, I don't know if my camera just died, it's dying. Anyway, book smarts versus street smarts. Just a little interjection I wanted to make there. Anyway, that's enough for me for today. Please leave a comment below. Love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this topic? And thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I really do appreciate it.